Remembrance Astrology, a new conversation between soul and sky. An approach to astrology beyond personality and fate that asks not who you are, but what your soul is trying to remember. A path back to who you were before survival became identity. Many women are not living from who they truly are. They're living from who they had to become. The personality they present to the world was not created in a vacuum. It was shaped by family, culture, expectation, survival, belonging, fear, rejection, longing, and love. Over time, adaptation became identity. Protection became personality. Survival became self. Yet beneath all that, something older remains, a deeper current, a quieter knowing, a part of us that remembers. And this is where Remembrance Astrology begins. Not with prediction, not with personality, not with fate, but with remembrance. Traditional astrology often asks, who are you? Remembrance Astrology asks, who were you before survival became identity? It asks what existed before the masks, before the conditioning, before the inherited stories, before the versions of ourselves we created in order to be loved, accepted, protected, or safe. I do not believe that the birth chart is merely a map of personality. I believe it's a map of memory. And not memory in the ordinary sense, but soul memory, emotional memory, ancestral memory, archetypal memory. Our birth chart doesn't just tell us who to become. We have free will, of course, but it does reveal what has been waiting to be remembered. The three mirrors of remembrance. Within the Priestess Path, I often speak of three symbolic languages: the body, the sky, the soul. Human design is the language of the body. Astrology is the language of the sky. Tarot is the language of the soul. And together they form three mirrors through which we encounter ourselves. The body remembers, the sky reflects, the soul reveals. Even for those who know little about astrology or who don't consider themselves astrology people at all, there is wisdom here, because Remembrance Astrology is not ultimately about memorizing planets, signs, or technical language. It is about story. It is about symbol. It is about the timeless human desire to make meaning from our lives. For thousands of years, myths, rituals, archetypes, and stories have helped us understand ourselves and one another. They offer mirrors through which we can recognize our fears, our longings, our patterns, and our possibilities. Whether we approach the chart literally, symbolically, psychologically, or spiritually, the invitation remains the same: to become curious about the story we have been living and the deeper story that is trying to emerge. None of these systems exist to place us into boxes. They exist to illuminate what has been hidden, to reveal the pattern beneath the pattern, to show us where survival became identity and where truth still waits beneath it. Remembrance Astrology is my exploration of astrology through this lens. So it's not a system of prediction or a collection of personality traits. Rather, it's a symbolic language of soul remembrance. I sometimes wonder whether this path has been calling to me for longer than I realized. In mythology, Hermes was the messenger who could travel where others could not. He moved freely between the worlds, descending into the underworld and returning with messages hidden from ordinary sight. He was a bridge between realms, carrying meaning from darkness into light. And there's something about that story that feels deeply familiar. Much of my work has revolved around a similar movement, the descent beneath identity, the revelation of what has been hidden, and the return with a deeper understanding of who we are beneath our conditioning. Whether through astrology, human design, tarot, mythology, or the wisdom traditions of the divine feminine, I have found myself returning to the same threshold again and again, the place where remembering begins. Perhaps that's why Remembrance Astrology feels less like something new and more like something waiting to be uncovered. The astrology before forgetting. Over the past few years, I've found myself returning to a question that feels both ancient and deeply relevant. What if astrology remembers more than we do? The planets themselves are older than empires, older than religions, older than political systems, older than patriarchy. Yet the stories we tell about them are not. Every symbolic system passes through culture, and culture leaves fingerprints. Astrology has evolved within society shaped largely by patriarchal values. The symbols remained intact, yet the lens through which we interpreted them inevitably shifted. Certain qualities were celebrated, others were diminished. Some became visible, while others slipped into shadow. This is not a criticism of astrology, nor is it a criticism of the many brilliant astrologers, past and present, who have devoted their lives to understanding these archetypes. It's simply an acknowledgement that no symbolic system exists outside the culture carrying it. And so I find myself wondering, what might astrology look like if we remembered what was forgotten? What if the planets are larger than the interpretations we inherited? What if the archetypes themselves have stories still waiting to be told? The impossible woman. One of the deepest threads running through my work concerns the way women have been shaped by impossible standards. For centuries, women have been taught that empowerment means becoming acceptable to family, acceptable to society, acceptable to partners, acceptable to systems that were never designed with them in mind. And yet, many feminine archetypes were once far more complex than the versions we inherited. The wild woman became too much. The wise woman became intimidating. The sensual woman became dangerous. The angry woman became unfeminine. The powerful woman became threatening. The priestess became irrational, and the witch became feared. The truth is that feminine power was not always removed. Often it was divided, split apart. Certain qualities were permitted while others were rejected. Women were allowed beauty but not appetite, nurture but not ambition, grace but not rage, sensitivity but not authority, compassion but not sovereignty. The result was not wholeness but fragmentation, and I believe something similar happened to many archetypes. The acceptable qualities remained visible. The inconvenient qualities disappeared into shadow. And over time, the archetypes became smaller, simpler, more manageable, but also less complete. Remembrance astrology is, in part, an attempt to return to that wholeness, not by rejecting the interpretations that came before, but by looking beneath them and listening for what still wants to be remembered. The descent, the revelation, the return. Every archetype within Remembrance Astrology moves through the same sacred spiral: descent, revelation, return. We do not arrive at remembrance through affirmation alone. We arrive through the willingness to descend beneath what is visible and encounter what has been hidden. The descent invites us beneath the surface of personality and into the hidden architecture beneath it, into inherited beliefs, unconscious loyalties, emotional memory, survival identities, and forgotten truths. The revelation occurs when something hidden becomes visible. A pattern emerges, a memory returns, a deeper truth rises into awareness. The return is the process of bringing that truth back into life, not merely as theory and nice-to-know insight, but as embodiment. This movement sits at the heart of the Priestess Path, and it sits at the heart of Remembrance Astrology. Every planet, every sign, every house, every aspect, every story, each asks the same question from a different angle. What part of the soul is trying to remember itself here? Beyond personality. Modern astrology often focuses on identity. You're a Leo, you're a Scorpio moon, you're a Capricorn rising. And yet identity is only one layer of the chart. Beneath identity lies memory. Beneath identity lies pattern. Beneath pattern lies essence. Remembrance Astrology is not interested in reducing people to labels. It instead seeks to uncover the deeper truths hidden beneath those labels. Not who you are, but who you became. Not what your chart says about your personality, but what your chart reveals about your remembering. Because the chart is not asking you to become someone else, it is asking you to return. A new conversation with the sky. This body of work begins with a simple question. What part of the soul is trying to remember itself through this archetype? That question will guide every exploration that follows. The planets, the signs, the houses, the myths, the forgotten stories beneath the stories. This is not an attempt to replace astrology. It's an invitation to deepen our relationship with it. It's an invitation to approach astrology as a living conversation between soul and symbol. A conversation that did not begin with us and will not end with us. A conversation that has been unfolding for thousands of years. A conversation that still has more to reveal. The chart is not merely a map of who we are. It's a map that leads us back to who we've always been. It is the key to our remembrance.